If someone is intensely angry at you, it's a lot like a thunderstorm.
Oh, absolutely. It's loud.
Yeah, it's loud, it's incredibly obvious, the lightning flashes right in front of you, and you know exactly why you're getting wet. It's a very direct cause and effect.
Right. You see the dark clouds rolling in from a mile away,
Hmm.
and your brain immediately tells you to grab an umbrella. It's this very visible, visceral threat that you
Yeah.
can actually prepare for.
Exactly. But then you step into the complex realm of human relationships and you encounter envy. And envy isn't a thunderstorm at all. It's more like a carbon monoxide leak in your house.
That is a terrifyingly accurate analogy because it's completely tasteless,
Right.
odorless, and utterly invisible to the naked eye. It quietly poisons the room while everyone is just, sitting around smiling at you.
And by the time you actually realize you're breathing it in, the psychological damage is already done. It just silently suffocates the relationship.
It really does.
So today, on the deep dive, we are learning how to detect that invisible poison before it takes you out. If you are listening to this right now, I'm talking directly to you, the ever-curious learner who's ready to upgrade your understanding of the human mind.
We've got a great one today.
We do.
Yeah.
We're opening up Robert Greene's fascinating work, The Laws of Human Nature, to really master law number 10, which is the law of envy.
And our mission today is to hand you a highly practical toolkit for dealing with envy out there in the real world.
Yes.
We're going to uncover how to spot those subtle, microscopic signs of envious people. We'll break down the 5 specific, highly dangerous types of enviers that Greene identifies.
Which is super helpful.
Yeah, and we'll walk through exactly how to completely neutralize their attacks with 3 simple steps.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, we're going to look in the mirror and show you how to take your own inevitable feelings of envy and transform them into a superpower for personal motivation.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because before we can build a defense system against envy, we first have to understand what it actually looks like in the wild.
Right.
And the absolute trickiest part here is that envy almost never looks like actual envy.
No, it almost always wears a disguise.
Always.
And to understand why it's so elusive, we really have to look at the evolutionary biology of the human brain.
Okay, take us back.
Well, think about our ancestors living in these small tribes of maybe 150 people. In that environment, your status within the group dictated whether you got food, whether you found a mate, and ultimately whether you survived.
So the stakes were incredibly high.
Exactly. Being at the bottom of the hierarchy was quite literally a death sentence.
So feeling inferior isn't just a minor bummer. To the primal part of our brain, feeling inferior is a literal survival threat. It sets off all the alarm bells.
Which brings us to ego protection. To openly admit that you are envious of someone requires a deeply, deeply painful admission to yourself.
Yeah, it hurts.
It requires you to look in the mirror and say, I feel inferior to that person. They have talent or money or charisma that I lack. And the human ego simply cannot tolerate that level of vulnerability.
It just rejects it.
Right. So the brain pulls a magic trick. It disguises the emotion, even to the person feeling it.
Wait, so the envier actually convinces themselves that they aren't envious at all.
Exactly. They rebrand the feeling. They tell themselves they are experiencing righteous anger or moral indignation or just, simple annoyance.
So they'll say things like, I don't envy their promotion, I just think they play dirty office politics.
Yes. Or, I'm not jealous of their wealth. They're just aggressively materialistic. This internal narrative makes it incredibly hard to detect.
Because you aren't seeing a classic display of jealousy.
Right. You're just seeing someone who seems inexplicably irritated by your mere presence.
Which means we can't look for overt jealousy. We have to look for the leaks. If they are hiding this intense emotion from themselves, it has to leak out through the cracks of their polite exterior somehow.
And it does. Greene points out that the very first sign of leakage is almost always in the microexpressions. Specifically, you really have to watch the eyes.
Okay, the eyes.
The eyes are the primary betrayer of the comparing brain. The etymology here tells the whole story, actually.
Oh, I love the word origins.
Yeah, so the Latin root of the word envy is invidia, which translates literally to look through or to probe with the eyes like a dagger.
Wow.
It's the entire historical basis for the concept of the evil eye across dozens of ancient cultures.
That dagger look, I think everyone listening has felt that look at least once in their lives. You walk into a room and someone just visually cuts you down for a fraction of a second.
Yes, and you absolutely have to trust your gut when you feel that.
It's a real instinct.
It is. When you first meet someone or when you share a piece of genuinely good news, the envier hasn't had the necessary 3 or 4 seconds to consciously construct their protective disguise.
So it just slips out.
Exactly. For just a microsecond, they will shoot you a quick, unguarded look of hostility or disappointment or sheer disdain. It flashes, and then boom, the polite, socially acceptable smile snaps right back into place.
It's so fast you almost doubt you saw it.
But if you catch that look, especially early in a relationship, log it in your memory, a dangerous person might be probing you for weaknesses.
And once they get that polite smile back on their face, they might try to disorient you with what Greene calls poisonous praise.
Oh, this one is so common.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's basically like a Trojan horse of a compliment. They wheel the shiny, beautiful wooden horse into your office, but there's a tiny army of resentment hiding inside, just waiting to jump out and attack your self-esteem when you least expect it.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. Poisonous praise is completely designed to create cognitive dissonance.
Give us an example of how that sounds.
Let's say you just finished a massive, deeply personal creative project, something you poured your soul into for months. A normal person congratulates your hard work. An envier, however, will bypass the quality of your work entirely and say something like, wow, you are going to make so much money off of this.
Ouch. So they take a labor of love and subtly reframe it as a greedy cash grab. They essentially attack your core motive.
Exactly. And they do it with a smile, which is what makes it so crazy-making. You feel the sting, but if you defend yourself, you look ungrateful for the compliment.
You look like the crazy one.
Right. They also rely heavily on backbiting. Gossip is the ultimate socially acceptable cover for envy.
Oh, totally.
If you have a friend who constantly bonds with you by sharing malicious, cutting rumors about other successful people in your circle, you can take it to the bank that they are doing the exact same thing about you the moment you leave the room.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag.
It gives them a safe, communal outlet to bring high achievers down a peg, which temporarily soothes their own burning feelings of inferiority.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this and I've got a coworker in mind right now. They give me weird compliments, they gossip constantly, and I swear I've seen that dagger look. Greene actually offers a practical stress test for this, right?
He does.
The Schopenhauer method, named after the philosopher.
Yes, Arthur Schopenhauer realized you could actively elicit the hidden emotion to see if it's truly there. You casually tell the suspected envier some objectively good news about yourself.
Like a promotion or something.
A promotion, a windfall, a great first date. As you tell them, you don't look at their body language, you lock onto their face. You are looking for a very quick, uncontrollable micro-expression of disappointment.
So the smile won't reach their eyes.
Exactly. You might also hear a sudden metallic tension in their voice as they force the word congratulations out of their throat.
Okay, so if telling them good news triggers an involuntary wince of disappointment, let me guess. To test it the other way, I should tell them something terrible that happened to me and watch to see if they accidentally smile.
You've got it. Share a misfortune. Tell them you lost a major client or your car broke down and ruined your weekend, and watch for an uncontrollable flash of joy in their eyes.
Man, that is dark.
It is. The Germans have a famous word for this, Schadenfreude, taking pleasure in another person's pain. If you see their eyes light up when you stumble, the test is over. You know exactly what you were dealing with.
All right, so we've mapped out the invisible gas. We know how it leaks out. But Greene doesn't stop there. He categorizes chronic enviers into 5 highly dangerous archetypes, right?
Yes, these are the people who have made the comparing brain their entire personality.
Okay, let's go through them. The first one he identifies is called the leveler.
The leveler is someone who has appointed themselves the ultimate judge of fairness in the world. But their true, hidden goal is to bring everyone down to their own level of mediocrity.
Nah.
They cannot tolerate the existence of excellence in anyone living. If you achieve something truly great through sheer effort, a leveler will aggressively attribute your success to luck or privilege or accuse you of gaming the system.
Wait, let me push back on this for a second. Isn't a leveler sometimes just someone who genuinely cares about social justice and structural fairness? Like, how do we tell the difference between a good person fighting for equality and an envier?
That is the most crucial distinction to make with this archetype, actually. Someone who genuinely fights for social justice operates from a foundation of deep empathy.
Right.
A true leveler, on the other hand, operates from a profoundly fragile ego. Their moral crusade is just a convenient mask for their deep-seated insecurity.
So how do you spot the difference?
You can spot the difference through their sense of humor. A genuine activist can still appreciate human excellence, and crucially, they can take a joke at their own expense.
Oh, that makes sense.
But a leveler, they take themselves incredibly seriously. They are entirely humorless about themselves. Their drive for equality is really just a drive to tear down anyone who reminds them of their own lack of achievement.
That makes perfect sense. The mask of virtue hiding the fragile ego. Which brings us to a totally different flavor of envy, archetype number 2. The self-entitled slacker.
Oh, this type is heavily narcissistic.
Yeah.
They feel completely inherently entitled to the absolute finest things in life.
Well, they don't want to work for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want the high status, the massive salary, the universal respect, but they refuse to endure the brutal hard work and sacrifice required to actually earn those things.
They want the CEO title and the corner office, but they want to clock out at 3 p.m. every day and never work a weekend.
And because they completely lack discipline, they try to glide by on charm or by taking credit for group efforts. But when they see you staying late, putting in the grueling hours and actually achieving the success they feel entitled to by birthright, their envy goes thermonuclear.
Because you're showing them up.
Your work ethic is a giant spotlight exposing their laziness, and their ego just can't handle the discrepancy.
So they attack you to dim the spotlight. Fascinating. Now, archetype number 3 operates on a different metric entirely. The status fiend. These are the people who run the world through a giant spreadsheet of material value. If you meet them at a dinner party, within 5 minutes they're asking about your exact job title, what your square footage is, or what specific neighborhood you just bought a house in.
They are constantly calibrating their own self-worth against your social rank. Greene uses a brilliant historical example from baseball to illustrate this.
Oh yeah, Reggie Jackson and his teammate?
Right, Greg Nettles. So Nettles became completely obsessed with Jackson's massive salary and the crazy media attention he commanded. But instead of admitting he was jealous of Jackson's undeniable batting prowess, Nettles convinced himself that Jackson was just a phony who manipulated the press.
He changed the narrative.
Exactly. Nettles' envy leaked out in hostile glares and poisonous locker room jokes, actively trying to make the team environment miserable for his own teammate.
And Greene notes something really insidious about status fiends. They don't always look like slick Wall Street bankers in expensive suits.
No, sometimes they use a reverse disguise.
Right. They portray themselves as extremely minimalist, maybe dressing in worn-out clothes, proudly bragging about how little they care about money or worldly possessions.
But underneath that monk-like exterior, they are secretly burning with lust for the luxury they can't afford.
And they will despise you if you acquire it.
It's just another way to weaponize status. Now, the status fiend often attacks from a distance, using money as the metric. But the fourth archetype does the exact opposite.
The attacher.
Yes. They use extreme, suffocating proximity to get to you. You see this constantly in high-pressure corporate environments or anywhere power is concentrated.
Think about that one person in your office who is always lingering around the top performers, always agreeing, but never actually volunteering to lead a hard project. They act like a loyal sidekick.
But it's not driven by genuine admiration. The attacher clings to successful people because they feel entirely empty inside. They lack their own inner purpose or drive.
So they just leech off yours.
They want to siphon off the ambient glow of your success without doing the heavy lifting. And here is the danger. The longer they stay attached to you, the more intimately they learn your flaws and secrets.
Oh, no.
And eventually, their simmering envy of your talent will boil over, and they will use their inside knowledge to wound you.
It's the classic betrayal from within the inner circle, which leads us to the final archetype, number 5, where the power dynamic is totally flipped. The insecure master.
This is a tough one.
This is when the person leaking the carbon monoxide is actually your boss or your manager. You would think having the higher salary and the authority would make them secure, but for this type, the leadership position acts like a magnifying glass on their imposter syndrome.
An insecure master is deeply terrified of talented subordinates. In a healthy company, a great boss sees a brilliant employee as a massive asset to the team's goals.
Sure.
But the insecure master sees your brilliance as a direct threat to their ego. If you deliver an outstanding presentation, they will look at you with that envious dagger gaze.
And then the sabotage starts.
Yes. They will start micromanaging you, discrediting your ideas in front of others. Or they might even fire you for completely bizarre, fabricated reasons just to eliminate the psychological threat you pose.
Okay, so if you are listening to this, Your brain has probably just matched 2 or 3 people from your past or your present to these exact descriptions.
Oh, sure.
You know who the attacher is, you know who the leveler is. The inevitable next question is, what happens when the invisible gas ignites? What happens when they actually launch an attack in the real world?
Survive the sabotage, we first have to understand the underlying mechanics of an envy attack.
What?
Let's say you're in a meeting, and an insecure master takes a deeply unfair, passive-aggressive swipe at a project you've been leading.
Okay.
The absolute worst thing you can do is follow your natural instinct.
Well, my natural instinct is to fiercely defend my work and demand an explanation, like in front of everyone.
Which is exactly what the envier is praying you will do. They are actively fishing for an emotional explosion. If you get visibly angry, defensive, or upset, you hand them the exact raw material they need to validate their internal narrative. They can turn to the rest of the room and say, "See, I told you they were overly sensitive and difficult to manage."
Oh, wow. So my emotional reaction retroactively justifies their envy.
Precisely.
Mm.
So Greene outlines 3 simple, highly practical steps to neutralize the provocation.
Okay, so instead of blowing up in that meeting, what do I do? What's step 1?
Step 1, maintain absolute composure. You have to emotionally detach from the insult in real time. It helps tremendously to remind your brain right in that moment that their attack actually has zero to do with the quality of your project.
It's about them.
It is entirely a symptom of their own agonizing insecurity.
You know, it sounds less like building a rigid brick wall and more like emotional aikido. You aren't blocking their punch with your face, you're just stepping calmly out of the way and letting their own toxic momentum carry them right past you. Their envy has nothing to land on.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Your utter calm creates a vacuum that infuriates them because it neutralizes their only weapon.
Okay, so what's step 2?
Which leads to step 2. Once the immediate interaction is over, get physical and emotional distance. Cut off contact to whatever degree is professionally possible. Do not attempt to repair the relationship.
See, that requires swallowing a lot of pride. Our instinct as empathetic human beings is to try and fix the misunderstanding, right? Maybe take them out for coffee to smooth things over.
If you try to be generous and repair the bond, it will drastically backfire. Your magnanimity will only make them feel even more inferior.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
They will smile at you over that coffee, but it will inevitably trigger a secondary, much worse attack down the road.
Yeah.
You simply have to remove yourself from their blast radius.
Which brings us to the final defensive maneuver, step 3.
Step 3, do not harbor revenge fantasies.
This is the hardest one.
It is. You absolutely should defend your reputation with objective facts. If they spread a quantifiable lie about your project, correct the record clinically and professionally.
Sure.
But do not waste a single ounce of your mental energy plotting their downfall. Let the enviers stew in their own, as Greene calls it, cold poison.
Cold poison.
A life spent chronically comparing yourself to others is already a miserable, inescapable punishment. Let them serve that sentence alone while you keep advancing.
It's incredibly empowering to have that defensive playbook.
Yeah.
But it's also very easy to sit here and diagnose all the toxic coworkers and friends around us.
Right.
Greene doesn't let us off the hook quite that easily, does he? He forces us to hold the mirror up to ourselves. Because the uncomfortable truth is, we all have a comparing brain. We all feel the sting of envy.
We do. It's wired into our primate biology.
So the final and arguably most important step in this deep dive is mastering the monster inside our own heads.
And we can't magically wire out our evolutionary biology. You will never completely stop comparing yourself to others, but you can transmute that raw, generalized dissatisfaction into something highly productive.
How do we do that? Greene provides several psychological tools to rewire our response, starting with moving closer.
Yes. Envy thrives on distance and the illusion of perfection. When we look at an incredibly successful person from afar, we only see the curated highlight reel.
The massive house, the awards, the perfect vacation photos.
It looks flawless. But if you actually move closer, if you read their unvarnished biography or get to know their day-to-day reality, the illusion violently shatters.
You see the mess.
You will inevitably see their crushing anxieties. You see the horrible stress that keeps them up at night, or the bitter family estrangements hiding behind closed doors. Once your brain processes the full, heavily flawed picture of their life, the envy naturally evaporates.
It's like realizing the all-powerful Wizard of Oz is actually just a stressed-out guy pulling levers behind a curtain. You stop wanting to be him.
Exactly.
The second tool is consciously engaging in downward comparisons. Which sounds harsh, but what does it actually mean?
Well, as a modern society, we are heavily conditioned to constantly look upward. We obsessively track people who have more money, more status, more fame than we do.
Always scrolling up.
That perpetual upward gaze is an engine for endless misery. To counter this, Greene advises us to periodically force our brains to look downward socioeconomically.
Okay.
Actively consider the billions of people on this planet who live in harsh environments, who face daily threats to their physical survival, and who lack the basic boring comforts like clean running water or a safe place to sleep that you take for granted every single day.
And just be clear, the point of doing this isn't to feel a sadistic superiority over them, right?
Not at all. The mechanism here is about perspective. The goal is to cultivate genuine gratitude. When you force your brain to acknowledge how objectively fortunate your baseline reality is, it fundamentally alters your neurochemistry.
It hits the reset button.
Greene explicitly states that gratitude is the absolute best, most potent antidote to envy. It flushes the poison out of your system.
Okay, the third tool is fascinating because it requires learning a new vocabulary word. It involves a concept from Friedrich Nietzsche called Mitfreud.
Yes, Mitfreud.
Think about this. We have a universally famous word for taking pleasure in someone else's pain, Schadenfreude, but we have to dig up an obscure, dusty Nietzsche term just to describe the act of being happy for someone else.
It says so much.
It really shows how much our default human nature leans toward the negative and how much we have to actively train our brains to do the opposite.
It's a profound observation about human nature. Mitfreud translates to joying with. It means not just muttering congratulations through gritted teeth when a friend succeeds, but actively, intentionally trying to feel the joy that they're experiencing.
That's hard to do.
It requires flexing a deep empathetic muscle. But when you train your brain to genuinely celebrate the excellence and success of the people around you, you elevate yourself completely above the petty, miserable swamp of envy.
And people feel that, right?
Yes, you become a magnet for high achievers because they can intuitively feel that your support is authentic.
And the final tool is transmuting envy into emulation. When you feel that unavoidable, sharp pang of wanting what someone else has, that little physical sting in your chest, don't suppress it, use it.
Let that frustration become the fuel for your own rigorous work ethic. If you envy a colleague's brilliant presentation skills, let that sting push you to join a public speaking group.
Channel the energy.
Trust your own capacity to improve. Instead of wanting to tear the successful person down to your level, use their achievement as empirical proof that the goal is possible. Focus your energy entirely on your own inner calling and building a life of meaning.
So, to bring this all together for you listening, your toolkit is now fully loaded.
It really is.
You know how to decode the subtle, dagger-like micro-expressions of the invisible gas. You can spot the levelers, the slackers, the status fiends, the attachers, and the insecure masters long before they get their hooks into your career.
You know how to use emotional aikido to remain absolutely calm, which is step 1.
Yep, and you know step 2, get distance, and step 3, drop the revenge fantasies to neutralize their attacks. And most importantly, you know how to flip the script on your own primal brain, using gratitude and Mitfreud to turn envy into rocket fuel for your personal growth.
We really want to emphasize that mastering the law of envy is not just a philosophical exercise. This is a vital strategy for self-preservation.
Totally.
Learning these mechanics saves you from years of agonizing emotional damage inflicted by manipulative colleagues. By seeing the invisible game and refusing to play it, you free up massive reserves of mental energy to dedicate to your actual goals.
It is a total paradigm shift for your daily peace of mind. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on. Something that takes Greene's analysis of our ancient biology and drops it squarely into the world we navigate right now.
Let's hear it.
If envy is, at its core, a survival mechanism wired into our primate brains, a mechanism built for a tribe of 150 people, what happens when we scale that up?
Oh, wow.
Think about it. We are walking around with ancient hardware in our skulls, and we have suddenly plugged ourselves into the hyper-connected global software of social media.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Every single day, you pull a glowing rectangle out of your pocket, and you are instantly bombarded with the curated, filtered, mathematically optimized, perfect lives of billions of strangers. You are exposed to more upward comparisons in 10 minutes of scrolling on a Tuesday morning than your hunter-gatherer ancestors experienced in their entire lifetimes.
The evolutionary alarm bells are just ringing constantly.
Constantly. So the question you have to ask yourself as you navigate this digital landscape is this: Are we doomed to be a society chronically infected by grand-scale, inescapable envy? Or is this overwhelming environment actually the ultimate training ground? Is it the exact crucible we need to finally learn how to override our default programming and master our own human nature?
That is something to think about.
It's entirely up to you how you use the tools. Keep your eyes open, watch out for the invisible gas leaks, and keep observing the world and yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.